the first telepathic game of chess. I'm going to show you this chess game which was played on the Neuralink livestream by the first ever human recipient of Neuralink, using his brain to control the cursor and move the pieces, and this was streamed on Neuralink's own livestream, seen by millions of people now around the world. Bear in mind that the point of this wasn't really the chess so much as to demonstrate the technology, which is absolutely mind-blowing in its potential. So kudos to the engineers and kudos to Nolan, who is the first recipient and was the one playing chess. This is his game. The main takeaway from the video, besides the mind-blowing technology and the way he's using it, is he seems like an incredibly likeable and grateful, just a good dude. And so anything I say about the chess, please take this in, in the context of this guy was distracted, he is not a professional chess player. I might make fun of some of the moves a little bit, but none of this is serious. Now let's get into it. So d4, knight f6. This is normal opening moves. Bishop f4. I think some of you can probably see where this is going already. Pawn to d5. I'm running through the opening because this is all quite standard opening stuff. And yes, pawn e3. Now we definitely know where this is going. And c5. And is he going to complete it? Yes, we've got the pyramid. The Pyramid of London. Not everybody knows, but London's famous for its pyramids too, at least in chess. And now his opponent plays c5, which stops the bishop developing. It's one way of playing against the London, and development continues, basically all normal stuff. His opponent is expanding a bit on the queen's side. I'm going to run through a few more moves. Oh, this is actually slightly interesting. Nolan plays e4, which actually just gives away a pawn because there are two pieces attacking that square. Nonetheless, it's still considered okay because of white's massive development lead. He's got 3 pieces out and black only has 1. If black decides to capture, he's wasting yet another move, and white gets so much activity that the computer considers his position fine, even giving up this pawn. So despite that, it's considered an okay move, and now black chooses not to take. He develops his bishop. He's trying to catch up in development, and Nolan continues as well, and he's now ready to castle. Will he castle? Well, not quite, because black takes in the middle. Now Nolan's got to do something about this because his knight is now under attack from this pawn, so he moves his knight into the middle. The computer doesn't love white's position, but it's still a relatively equal game. He's getting some activity, and let's move on. Black develops his bishop to potentially swap off this strong knight in the middle. Possibly he shouldn't, because by taking here he allows the white bishop to that square instead, which is a pretty good square for the bishop too. Anyway, Nolan castles and black takes. Now Nolan recaptures with the bishop, and his opponent decides to attack the bishop using his knight, which is kind of good because that bishop is a pain in the middle. It's quite a strong piece. It does have the downside, if he uses this knight, which he does, as opposed to this knight, of undefending, or should I say unblocking, this square which was blocking the bishop's attack on this g7 square, which Nolan takes advantage of by taking. Now, it's a dubious move taking this, because on the one hand, yes, he grabs a free pawn. On the other hand, what happens next, I think, demonstrates why it's a bit on the dangerous side. Rook underneath, immediately throwing pressure down the now open file at Nolan's king. He moves the bishop back. He had to do something about it. It was going to be taken by the rook otherwise. And now black gets very aggressive, quite scary actually, and moves the queen out, immediately threatening mate in 1. Now Nolan finds a very good move here, both getting his bishop out of dodge, away from this knight's predatory gaze, and puts it on g3, which defends the bishop and defends the checkmate attack, blocking. And now his opponent gets even more aggressive. Now, the computer doesn't like this, but in fast chess especially, and this was a 10-minute game, I believe, based on the amount of time left. Yes, it was a 10-minute game. It's very easy to make mistakes, especially when people are attacking you ferociously, so I'm not going to fault this move too much, even though the computer doesn't like it much. Queen out, his opponent finds f5 with the pawn, defending this square and getting even more aggressive. So his opponent's playing well as well. He plays h3 now, which is not a great move, but it's important to note that he was answering questions throughout this whole game, but especially now they actually show some of the game at this point. I'll see if I can cut it in if I can find the correct clip. And he's very distracted because he's talking about...
Big things, honestly, was that oh, I think I just got checkmated.
So he was very distracted here, and it allows this move, which is attacking the bishop, and if the bishop moves, well, then there'll be checkmate potentially with the queen coming in. The reason the computer doesn't like it is probably because it allows the knight to hop in first, attacking the queen, and if the bishop takes, then he is attacking the rook in the corner, and there probably just isn't time for takes, and additionally, although it's getting a bit complicated, if the queen is sitting happily on this square or anywhere along this diagonal after having taken both the bishop on this square and potentially the rook in the corner, he is also defending the checkmate square over here. So all things considered, allowing the knight and the queen into this square is pretty devastating for black. But Nolan doesn't play that. He does play bishop back, and now it's just checkmate in one. The end. Well, not quite. His opponent plays f3. The Germans always like to do things the complicated way. Look, they're both 1200, and he's distracted. Cut them some slack, but it's not a great move from the black player here. I think we can establish that. Maybe he's looking for style points, I don't know. Anyway, Nolan now defends the checkmate, allowing his bishop to be taken, which it is. Slow motion replay. Okay, not slow motion replay. Now he moves his rook, so it can't get taken, with a promotion. And now black plays forward. Black's really an aggressive player. He's really trying to open up the king. And Nolan jumps in with the knight to attack the queen. And at the same time, it's a very clever sacrifice, because, yeah, this bishop can just take it. His opponent plays pawn takes pawn, which is a fork and a check. On the other hand, it does allow the king to take and defend the knight, so it doesn't quite work out. Bishop takes, and if Nolan's going to take back, it draws the king out further, so it's a bit iffy taking. Anyway, Nolan takes, and then check. Now this is a bit too much aggression now, because even though it is a check in the middle, the queen can take as well as the king, which is what Nolan plays, which is also a counter check. It's attacking the black king and forking the rook in the corner. So in one move, black kind of destroys his attack and winning position. He moves his king, getting out of dodge, and Nolan takes the rook in the corner. It's a slightly brave move in my opinion, because although the computer likes it, your king is very exposed, and I'd be very scared of checks like this. But Nolan plays it, and it is, I think, the correct move. Now his opponent doesn't play the check, he plays queen over here. I'm not quite sure what the purpose of this move is. I'd say to threaten the rook, but the rook's defended. Maybe his opponent saw something else, I just don't know. King hides, probably a good move. And now the rook comes over, and Nolan finds queen back to the middle of the board. Now, it's good to re-centralise the queen. Or maybe he should have played one further, I don't know, maybe that does a better job of defending the squares around the king. Okay, queen up, and Nolan plays this move, which is, I think, a 5-star move. It both attacks the queen, chasing her away, and adds a second protector after the king to the f2 square, which stops the rook coming in with a pretty devastating attack. So In all, this is just an absolutely class move, the bishop back. Okay, the queen has to run away. It runs, well, back to where it was before. And now Nolan grabs another pawn. Again, he's very brave with his queen. Queen up again. Queen across. Before he couldn't go here because the black queen a move ago was on the d2 square, defending this square, but after moving, it no longer is defending this square, and Nolan can check on that square, which also helps to get his queen back involved, which after the knight moves is what happens. And Nolan's really doing a good job of defending, really impressive. I wonder if he finally managed to stop answering questions at this point, because he's really playing well here. His opponent hops the knight in. He now takes with his rook, which is again a great move, getting rid of the dangerous pawn, defending his queen again, defending the f2 square again. Everything's just coming together, consolidating. Knight takes, which is sort of a clever move because, well, if queen takes, then queen takes rook, and if queen takes queen, then he's attacking the rook afterwards, so the knight can't really be taken, well, except by the king. It could be taken by the king, I suppose, but regardless, that isn't played because Nolan spots a much better move, checking the king and attacking the rook in the corner. And after the king moves, it's not good enough to just move out the way because this comes with check. He takes the rook with check, and now the game is all but over. Black plays king to b7. Nolan gives a check with the rook, again a very strong move, and king goes to the corner, which is probably not the right square, although he's probably losing regardless. Yeah, there is forced mate regardless, but this kind of just makes it easy because Nolan plays queen back, which both offers a queen trade and is a check, so it kind of can't be ignored. His opponent now plays knight over here, which is the final blunder of the game, because it kind of looks like this is the only move available because the king couldn't move to get out of this check. What black should have played was queen takes, which would have postponed the end of the game, although it is very much over at this point, because after queen takes queen, king takes, black only has two knights and white has two rooks and a bishop, so it's very much over at this point, as well as more pawns. Anyway, black doesn't do that. He misses that entirely. Instead of taking, he plays knight over here, and in light of queen takes check, and the king having to move to this square, followed by the queen checkmating on this square, let's just play that for you. King over, checkmate. Black resigns in this position. So this was the game played on the Neuralink livestream, and now I will show you the actual first Neuralink game, the first game ever played with telepathy, which is, I assure you, a much better game than this one was.